Hello, hello. This is Tara Alamany of Emerald Lake Books, and I am here for another episode of Emerald Lake Books Live. This is our 13th episode now, and moving right along. I hope you're getting some value out of it. So, today's topic is going to be about talking about the best bonus offers that you can include in your book. Now, last week we talked a bit about the fact that you can use a book to build your business, but part of that aspect is about educating your readers, and the other part is about getting them to actually connect with you somehow. So, you want to think about different offers that you can include in the book that are going to get them to reach out to you. Now, the thing is that you need to make sure that these offers are always about them, not about you. So it's about providing more value, allowing them to immerse themselves more in whatever it is that you've written about. So we're going to talk about some of the things that you can offer that most of them are going to be nonfiction, but there are a few fiction ideas in here as well. It's always easier with nonfiction for me because I come from that mindset. But there are things that you can certainly do with fiction as well to get people to engage with you, to join your mailing list, to find other things to read from you. So let's start first with the fact that if you happen to have written a nonfiction book that includes any kind of case studies or story examples of clients that you've worked with, people who have used the process that you're talking about, then what you can do is actually provide further details about them as a download. So I know Susanna Liller, for instance, uses a number of different women, 3 different women that she profiles in her book. But as an additional bonus, you actually can see the full video interview at your leisure that she had with these women. So in the book, only some of the content made it, but the video information provides a lot more connection with those particular people. And so it becomes a great way to get people to engage with more content. You also may think about the fact that if you have written a book that has to do with self-reflection or self-discovery, that maybe there's exercises in the book that you have asked them to think about or to do, then maybe what you want to do is create a companion workbook that can be a downloadable workbook that they can write all the answers in. And it can just be a PDF that they go to a certain website to be able to download. Now, when you talk about bonuses, you can make these as things that are behind a gate. So, for instance, they have to give you their email address in order to get it, or you can make it so that they just are able to access it on their own without any additional effort. So that's completely up to you. I would make sure that you have a little bit of both if you can. Make some things as completely available as possible. So, for instance, in Susanna's case, where she had the webinars, the video recordings, since those are going to be out on a YouTube channel anyway, I would just direct them directly to YouTube, and maybe then a call to action at the end of the video to subscribe. So it's a way to build your YouTube following. But another thing you can do is if you have any kind of references that you create to go along with the guide. So maybe that might be a checklist, it might be a workflow, it might be a process flow. I know with Lionel Benny, he talked about the history of marketing. And so he actually has a full page spread, so 2 pages in the book that are a diagram, a timeline of the history of marketing. And so he has a full color version of that people can download and be able to print and use on their own. So that becomes something. But this is something that works really well for fiction as well. So for instance, if your fiction involves realm building, so you have a whole new world that's been created, or you have a certain type of ship or vehicle that you've done a diagram of at the beginning so that the readers can fully understand what that looks like, you can create that as something that they can download and be able to have to reference as they're reading or to hang on their wall, whatever that might be. So the other thing you might want to think about is some kind of book excerpt. So you see this often used in fiction where somebody will have, say, a series of books, and at the end of the book, you may get the first chapter to the next book in the series, which of course, because you keep reading, suddenly you're sucked into the next book and you have to go buy it because you need to find out what happens next. So it's a common thing to do there, but it's also something that you can do in nonfiction as well. So for instance, if you have a book that talks about how to build something specific, then maybe you include a short excerpt that's the beginning or a quick diagram, but without all the cut and measurements of another thing that they might be interested in building. So there's different things there that you can do in terms of book excerpts to be able to get them to engage further with you. Now, you'll often see at the end of a book a call to action to join my mailing list and follow me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter and do all these, do this, that, and the next thing. The challenge when it comes to the end of a book is your reader has had a good experience of you, hopefully. And if they've made it to the end of the book, they've made it there because they stuck with you, because they liked what they were reading. So you don't want to bombard them with 12 different things that you're asking them to do. You want to give them one clear call to action and maybe 2 or 3 options that they can follow through on if they want. So you want to make sure that you make it really simple. Now, another thing you can do if you're dealing with fiction more is, instead of doing a book excerpt, if you don't have that next book in the series or in that same world ready, what you could do is a small short story or novella that bridges the gap, or that provides some details about what was going on in a tangential timeline at the same time as what's been covered in the book. So, for instance, if you had characters who went off and did something while the reader followed the main character, and you don't know what all happened on this secondary timeline, you could write a short story that fills that in. It allows the reader then to continue to engage in that and make it possible for them to learn more about the world that they're enjoying while they're waiting for your next book in the series. Now, of course, a lot of nonfiction writers that we work with are coaches. And so one of the common offers that they will include is the opportunity to have a coaching session with them. So if you've taken them through a specific process as part of your book, you may want to make sure that they have enough information, of course, to be able to do it on their own. But if they want your feedback, if they want to know how you would apply things in their specific circumstance, they may want to be able to work with you. So one of the things you can do there is simply have the invitation, or because they're a reader, you may want to give them a special offer. Maybe that's a little more time for the coaching call than you normally would give, or maybe it's a discount on the price that you typically would charge. Personally, I tend to favor giving more than cutting the price, because cutting the price doesn't set a good precedent. It says something about not quite being the value that it should be. But everybody has their own opinion about what they do with that. So whatever you're comfortable with. The other thing too is, if you happen to have, say, a live stream like I'm doing, or a podcast, or something that you do regularly like a webinar, and somebody has read your book and applied the principles that you've shared, and now they've come to the end of that journey, and you can actually give them an invitation to come be on your podcast, on your Facebook Live, whatever that might be, or on a webinar, so that they can actually share what they accomplished by applying the principles that you have taught them. The nice thing about that is it reinforces your validity in terms of what you know and what you teach, but it also gives them some visibility for what they've accomplished. And especially if what they've accomplished is something business related, it may also draw some business for them as well. So those are all just a bunch of different ideas. And of course, it's always important to make sure that you tailor what those bonuses are to your specific book. And when you do it, you want to make sure that when you make these offers, they're made organically, that they feel natural. You don't want it to be a pitch fest. And that can be one of the problems when people make offers, is they may wait till the very end and put in, 20 of them there. And that's not going to work. Or they may stick them at the beginning of the book because, the look inside feature on Amazon will make it so that everybody can see that giveaway there. And maybe they'll sign up without ever buying your book. But the challenge with that is they haven't experienced you yet. They don't know who you are. So why would they download your stuff? So what you want to do instead is work these into the narrative in places where they make sense. So for instance, if you have an exercise in your book and you go through and you describe how to do those exercises, and you have the questions that they should be answering for themselves, then at the end you can say, if you'd prefer not to write in your book, or you want to be able to keep a record of this, you can download these questions at this link. And so just make them so that they're non-intrusive offers. It's certainly not anything that they have to do, but it is an additional value for the book that they've purchased from you. So, if you need any help brainstorming ideas for how to apply this to your book and your specific situation, I invite you to get in touch with us. And if not, that's fine as well. I hope that this provides you with enough creative juices to be able to come up with something that works really well for you and your reader and what they will value most. I did want to let you know that thank you for tuning in today, but next week we're going to have a guest. Our guest is going to be Bruce Ballister, who is our most recently published author. His book came out earlier this week and is called Welcome to the Zipper Club. And Bruce is on a mission. His book was written because when he found out that he needed to have heart surgery, he couldn't find any information on the internet beyond just medical websites that provided a lot of bulleted lists. And he wanted to know more about what to expect from the surgery, how he was going to feel, how best to recover afterwards. So when he was recuperating from his surgery, he began writing the book that he couldn't find. And so we're going to talk with him next week, leading into February being Heart Health Month. So it's a good time. And I really hope that you'll join us to be able to hear what Bruce has to share about his book. So until then, thank you for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time.